Happy Friday. This is Steph Lee, founder of Host Agency Reviews, and this is the Friday 15, where every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we answer the questions that you have submitted. And I'm going to pop up the QR code for those of you that are watching on YouTube, where you can submit your questions. And it will also be in the show notes for those of you that are listening to the audio version.
Mhm.
So today we have on a familiar guest. Hello, Jenn Lee. How are you?
I'm so good, my sister from another whole set of parents. I'm good. I'm good. I went curly today. You haven't seen my curls in
I
a while, and you went
I
straight.
I know. So Jen and I are opposites today. We don't have matching backgrounds like we did last time, and we don't have
Yeah.
matching hair. We've decided to kind of do our own things, express ourselves. So, but we're so excited to have you on, Jen. We had you on a few
Thank you,
weeks
babe.
ago, and just for those that didn't catch that one, we will link to it in the comments. But two, we talked about some big news over at TPI, and that you are not you're leaving TPI technically, but you're going and you're starting vacation planners. So give us the
Mhm.
30-second spiel on that.
Yeah, so after 36 years of TPI being a host agency serving travel advisors as they're launching and growing their little travel empires, we've decided it's time to jump into the franchise space. So I will be launching that division of TPI and be the president of it, and it's called Vacation Planners. So a fresh approach on franchising. Excited.
Yay. Well, we can't wait to see it, and we'll keep people updated. They do have a profile up on the site, and we'll drop a comment in the links to the landing page.
Yeah,
If you're interested for more information, you can drop your email in there.
sounds good.
All right, Jen. Okay, couple things because some people on the HAR team have requested that I make some announcements. So first, Mary, of course, is wanting to let everybody know we have our survey that's live right now. If you haven't taken it, we've got over 1,000 advisors that have taken it already, and we want you to join those numbers as well. You can go, oops. Oh, I'm going to change the QR code to the survey reminders. Otherwise, follow the link in the comments or the show notes, and you'll be able to take the survey. It's just going to take a few minutes of your time, and you'll get a free report this fall/early winter when it comes out.
Awesome.
Um, yep. Other thing, two upcoming webinars we want to promote. One is Wednesday, May 15th. So next Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Time, optimizing your marketing with Atlas Travel. And then the following Wednesday is going to be with you, Jen, and it is curating the Come With Me group travel.
Yes.
And that is at 1 p.m. May 22nd. We are going to drop the links for both of those in the show notes and comments for you if you would like to register.
Sorry
All
to
right.
all of those watching us on YouTube. I have a horrible European cough. I just came back from Europe, so I keep muting myself. So podcasters can't hear me, but poor people watching us on YouTube. I'm a mess. I'm
I,
sorry.
I I like that you call it a European cough, as if they cough more refined than the Americans.
It's true though.
All right. So, Jen, our first question comes from Nina C. Hello, Steph. I am new to the industry and I am trying to find a travel host. If I am geared towards making money and want to make this a full-time job, would it be better to choose a host that offers leads? Would that make a difference? So, Jen, do you offer leads? What's your view on this?
No, TPI, Travel Planners International, does not offer leads, and Vacation Planners, the franchise division, will not offer leads per se, will offer more exposure. But here's the thing, everybody who enters this industry should want to be making money. So, first off, kudos to you that you realize that you are launching a business. And so, here's my take on leads. You know, what I find is a lot of times people, they can kickstart by getting the leads, but you have no relationship with those people. You don't really, they didn't come to you or call you because they saw something about you that intrigued them. You didn't make a connection with them. They made a connection with whoever the lead generator is. Now, that's not a bad thing, but what happens is then you're sitting around waiting for people to call you or for a lead to pop in. And now you're really just a call center person. You know, what we're finding is that a lot of travel advisors, whether they're in the host agency model or the franchise model, really where the biggest impact that you are going to make is in your local community. And local community could also mean your online community. I would not choose a host simply based on if you get leads, because if you don't get the leads you like, now all of a sudden you're just waiting. So I'm not a big big believer in using that as a differentiator or a deciding factor, really. Find a host agency that's going to help you build your business.
Great insights. I'm going to, so right now, up for those on YouTube, I've pulled up our travel leads article. Now, this we're going to link to in the comments. This is a great way to kind of, because if you are going to go with a leads program,
Yeah.
there is a wide variety of leads programs that are out there. There's a lot of questions you should be asking. Some of the big ones are going to be, who does that lead belong to?
Hmm.
Because if it belongs to the host agency, that has ramifications for you down the pipeline. It means if for
Hmm.
whatever reason you decide to leave, you either have to buy out your host agency and you'll want to know how much it's going to cost, or you're going to, all of those leads, if you built your entire um, client base off of those leads, you're going to have to
Hmm.
start fresh. The second
Hmm.
is checking what the commission split is on that lead. Is it different
Correct.
than the normal commission split you're on? And
Yep.
there's a lot of other things within here that you'll want to take a look at, like alternatives to leads program. And the other thing to note, I'm going to just switch this up. So on our host agency profiles, this is something that you're able to find the information on the profile for the host agency. So, like
Yep.
Travel Planners International, they don't have the leads program. But if someone does have a leads program, then the information about the who the lead belongs to and what the split is will be on their profile for you.
Yeah, and there's a
That
lot of host agencies that act, again, we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago, what defines making a host agency. But we have a lot of agencies within TPI that have associate advisors, and the main agency is generating all that consumer awareness and sending leads to their associates. And to Steph's point, check your contract on that. I think that's a different type of lead program because it's starting from a travel agency that is consumer facing with a team versus just
Mhm.
generating leads from a directory.
Yep, exactly.
Good.
The other thing, let me see if I can pull this up. And okay, we're going to have to share my entire screen because I can't figure out how to do this. But the other thing I wanted to share is, let's see. Hmm, it is not sharing. Okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to mention then, because I'm not able to share it, but I think this is going to be helpful for you, Nina, is understanding, because you're talking about wanting to go from part-time to full-time eventually. And so giving you an idea, our research reports, and those are the things that you get free if you take the survey, that has a great graph to kind of walk you through. It does your income over time, and it does it by full-time versus part-time. So you can see if I'm going part time, it's going to take me, say, 5 years. If I'm going full time at it, it's going to take me about 2 years to reach the salary, the average income that I want. So I'll put a link in to those research reports. That'll give some information on that. Let's see. Okay, so Nina's question is done. Next, we have Hamanji S. If I'm signing a contract with a host agency, am I required to provide my social security number along with my driver's license? I'm not very comfortable providing that information, but would like to know if the host agency needs that information prior to training and hiring. Jen, what do
Yes.
you do
So
and why?
yeah. So first off, when you're signing any contract out there, chances are the person is asking for proof of identification because the person signing the contract has to match the person that's on that ID and that human being. You're entering the travel industry, which is wrought with fraud. And so all host agencies are going to ensure that the person that's signing the agreement is actually the person that's going to be doing the business. Now, social security numbers, if you've gotten yourself set up with an EIN number, an employee identification number, because you've started a business like an LLC or a sole proprietor, actually it's LLCs. If you've gotten yourself registered as an LLC, then you're going to give that information. You're not going to give your social security, but they need to have something to be able to send you a 1099 at the end of the year so that you can file your taxes. The other thing that I saw in here, host agencies, unless you're an employee, nobody's hiring you. So let's make sure that you're understanding the difference between launching a business on your own as an independent contractor, that's the legal term, and you're partnering with a host agency versus somebody hiring you where you now become an employee, which by the way, you have to give them your social security number and your driver's license so they know exactly who you are. So this is a very normal thing. If somebody didn't ask for that information, then I would be worried.
hmm I agree with that. And the reason I would be worried is because it is best practice at being a host agency. If you're letting someone into your systems, that's going to affect everybody else. If they are taking fraudulent, they may or may not be fraudulent,
Right.
but if they have a client that comes in that they don't know and they don't know the red flags for fraud, they book it and it ends up being a $25,000 fraud case. If your host gets hits with a lot of those, especially if they're smaller, that costs a lot of money and can affect
Mhm.
you getting your commission. So that's something to really,
Absolutely.
Homanji, it's not a red flag. It's actually something that's good that they're
It's very
asking
good.
for that.
And also, Hamanji, a lot of host agencies will, and they'll tell you right up front, will do a background check on new advisors, especially if you want to use their point and click booking engine for air. So the
hmm
more they require from you, kind of the better it is. That means they've got it together.
Yeah. And so we also have an article. It's a little bit dated, but a lot of the stuff is still the same when it comes. Fraudsters are always evolving.
Oh yeah.
But I'm gonna link to it. I think it's from 2017, but it's like thinking like a fraudster. But a lot of what they do is social engineering, and so
Mhm.
they make you kind of question yourself. You're like, there's a lot of things that's suspicious about this person, but they mentioned the creek down by where I walk that's in our
Mhm.
neighborhood, and they mentioned this. These are
Mhm.
all things like listen to your gut feeling in those
Yep.
situations.
Yep.
So we'll link to that. And like I said, even though it's a couple years old, there's a lot of information in there that's great for advisors to be aware of, especially new advisors.
Absolutely. Good question.
Um, yeah, great question. And then we're also going to we link to this a lot, but our article on what to look for in your contract with your host agency, just to make sure that the relationships go smoothly.
Mhm.
All right. Last question from Mary S. And this is not Mary Stein. I just realized this. Okay. At least not that I know of. So, hi, I was reading your article on travel expenses that you can write off. What about writing off a cruise where you are escorting a group and while on board, you meet with them daily to answer questions, herding cats, and also to organize and host group events both on the ship and at the ports? Sometimes a spouse goes along, sometimes just the travel advisor. It's typically a Caribbean cruise, so it's not American flagged. That pretty much limits it to the Pride of America and American Cruise Line river cruises. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the American ones. Um,
Right.
Jen, this fits in perfectly with your upcoming webinar.
Yeah, I know exactly. Come with me, groups. So here's the thing. Neither myself nor Stephanie are your accountant. So you definitely need to get with your accountant to answer any questions with regards to this. But typically, again, if you've opened up an LLC or even an S Corp, there are things that you can use as write-offs. What the IRS, and again, get with your accountants, but the IRS probably has a percentage of monies that can be written off on an annual basis based on your sales. Because everyone would be like, oh, I can write off my cruise. They book 4 cruises for themselves. I can write it off because I'm a travel advisor. That's a no-go. It doesn't work that way. But if you are hosting a group, you are working and your
Mhm.
expenses are part of your working expenses. But again, there's a lot to it. What again you cannot do is just write off your vacation and say, oh, I talked to somebody sitting in a chair next to me about travel, therefore I'm writing it off. The IRS, we are one of those industries that the IRS pays close attention to.
And I know that there's a lot of things people joke around with being a business owner and be like, oh, we talked about business during lunch, so now I can
Mm.
write this off.
Yeah.
Your $40 lunch or $50 lunch is very, very different from the big ticket vacation items.
Nine thousand
So
dollar cruise. Yeah. Yeah.
so they are looked at with more scrutiny. But I'm going to link to this article that you were referring to, Mary,
Mm.
for those that haven't. But there's a specific question or section in here about cruise and business travel expenses. So the IRS actually, I don't know if there was an issue at some time with cruises and abuse, but there's a specific section in the IRS code about cruises
Mhm.
that makes it a lot more limited in terms of what you can write off. So
Mhm.
they have to meet these bullet points. You have to
Oh,
meet
I don't
these
yeah.
requirements.
Mhm.
So take a look at that, Mary, because that's going to be really helpful. And that'll make sure that, there's things along here on you need to have a schedule of the business activities each day of the meetings, the number of hours that you attended these meetings, so that you can have the documentation so that if you happen to get audited, you'll
Mhm.
have it. And if chances are, if the auditor sees that for every cruise, you've got this laid out, they're not going to look at you and scrutinize you as closely as someone that has none of this information and has to gather it all. So
Correct.
check
And
that
again,
out.
it's
It's a great resource.
yes, I love that. That's fantastic. And again, get yourself set up as a business entity. If you're not a business entity, you really have limited opportunities for you to be able to take advantage of, tax breaks and write-offs that you should be able to take advantage of because you are a business owner. You are not a travel advisor. You own a travel agency, unless you're an employee. Then you can't write
Yep.
off anything.
And if you have questions about business structures because you're not sure what they are, what Jen's referring to with these LLCs, we'll link to our article on the types of business structures. It makes sense to have the LLC for
Mhm.
many reasons, although sometimes it can be a little bit cost prohibitive depending which state you're in. And then if you are looking to do groups, and this is something an area you're looking to expand in, one, make sure to check out Jen's webinar on, I think it was May 22nd.
Yep.
But two, I'm going to link to 3 articles on the site we have about finding groups, group booking tips from other travel advisors, and then what suppliers want you to know about
Yep.
booking groups. So that can give you lots of great info to play with on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Jenn, we
Yes.
are coming to a close,
Yes.
and this is amazing because it's only 17 minutes in. We are
Yes.
we are so on this Friday. Um, so what are some to vacation planners? What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they
Yeah.
have questions?
Yeah, and right now this is the month of May of 2024 that we're talking because I know people go back and listen to all of your podcasts year after year
Yep.
after year. I'm sure of it. But right now, probably the best way to get a hold of me directly is my email address. That's JENN at vacationplanners.com, Jen at vacationplanners.com. Or if you go to vacationplanners.com, right now there's an inquiry form on there. We're not actually launching until the beginning of Q4. We've got some things that we're finalizing. And so I'm excited to start diving in. We are interviewing folks who are interested in learning more about our unique approach to purchasing a franchise. I think it's very unique. And it's not that it's cheaper or more expensive or less expensive. It's just a unique approach to the way we're looking at. I should say a fresh approach, not a unique approach. So just go to vacationplanners.com, get on the hottest list in the industry, and we will reach out to you and keep you up to date as we move closer and closer to accepting applications and going through the interviewing process. So we're pretty excited about that. Plus, I have a super Facebook group called Fiercely Forward, the Fiercely Forward Travel Advisor Facebook group. I'll still be posting in there as well.
Perfect. Well, I have to say, Jen, this is really exciting, your new email address, because
Yeah.
you have moved up in the world. Before you were Jen L
Yeah.
at Travel Planners, and now it's just Jen.
Just Jen. Yeah. That was in my
Yeah.
contract, Steph. It was in my contract. If I
Well,
can't just
that's
do my
important
first name,
stuff.
what is the point?
I mean, who are you if you have to have a last
If you
initial?
have to have another initial, I'm with you. No, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Funny you say that. I'm like, Jen at Vacation Planners is so much easier.
I know, I agree.
Thanks.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We have upcoming for our next Friday 15. If you have questions for these specific people, remember you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15 and submit questions for them or anything else you're wondering about. May 17th, next week, we have Gifted Travel Network. I believe it's going to be Meredithon, although it still hasn't been cemented. May 24th is very exciting because we are going to do our first ever throwback day because the HAR team is having an in-house service day where we are working on our standard operating procedures. And then May 31st, we are going to have outside agents on as the co-host. So that keep those on your calendar. And if you want reminders, you can sign up for e-reminders and text messages. Again, that's by going to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. So
I'll
Jenn,
mention
always a
it.
pleasure to connect with you
You
on,
too, babe.
great way to start the weekend.
I love it. I love it. Take care, everybody out there.
Thanks, everybody. And Jenn, feel better with your European cough.
Thank you. I know I'm getting ready to have a coughing fit. I got to go back on mute.